Bro's got a Neckussy. Kill this guy. Kill that guy. Red rose. Where's the blue rose? There it is. Alright. Give me some loot. Can I get some loot, please? Oh? Okay. Fuck. I'm going to be showcasing and showing how to craft all gear for my DoT capped Righteous Fire that I put together at the end of Keepers. The build doesn't use vaal RF because of the bug making you do 0 damage when you're over DoT capped, and we also don't use Fire Trap. We're sitting in hideout with about 16 mil DPS, and I have about 19 mil with life tap up. After curses, skitterbots, and aspect of the spider, we are DoT capped. The build also doesn't use any league specific items, so it's viable for any league. Even though we're DoT capped with curses, it's still important to have a high DPS without having curses active. So one thing I would have done differently with this build if I thought about it is run a Bound by Destiny. You can see if we take one DoT multi-jewel out and then add 15% increased strength and 15% increased attributes, our damage goes up by a lot. But that involves getting a Elder Ivory Tower and a Elder Warlord Dune. And you also need your boots to be Hunter Elder, which isn't too hard to get, but I just didn't think about it at the time, and now I have these enchantments on them that took me a lot of tempering and tailoring orbs, so this will be something I'll do next league if I decide to make the build again. I'm going to super quickly go over the skill tree and skills, and then we'll showcase a map and get into crafting. We have a 2-node Lethal Pride with double increased strength node and an unnatural here in the middle. We have chance to avoid being stun tattoos going down all these dex nodes, and you can see our stun chance is 3% with 90% chance to avoid. I have 3 of these clusters, they're all settles. I have T2 life here, T1 damage here, and T2 life here. Then we have a 3 passive voices with just triple magic jewels in it and an 88% adorned. 88% is your breakpoint if you're not going for 100. Anything over 88% will not give you any benefit. All the other jewels are just magic corrupted jewels, and then we have Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame for Pathfinder. And then we're taking Guardian and Chieftain. For keystones, we have Eternal Youth, Zealot's Oath, and Blood Magic. We have the Attribute Wheel, the Recovery Mastery, the Regen Wheel is very important, and the Strength node is our level 100. And then the rest of the skill tree is just taking life nodes. For the skills, obviously Righteous Fire, we have Awakened Ellie Focus, Awakened Swift Affliction, and Life Tap. And on the helmet itself, we have 25 burn damage, 20 conk effect, 30% more damage while on low life, and 20 less duration. Less duration gives us a 19% more damage multiplier. We don't actually use it for the less duration. Then we have Skitterbots, Enlightened, Flesh and Stone, and Purity of Elements. Purifying Flame is a cast when damage taken setup that drops concentrated ground, and it's also linked to combustion, so anything that gets hit by it has minus 10 fire res. Leap Slam faster attacks momentum. I tried using this without momentum. I don't recommend it at all. It felt horrible. I highly recommend having this 3 linked with momentum. Automation Immortal Call Life Tap. This is just for lazy mapping to always have Life Tap up and to have a Mortal Call going off. Then we have Flame Dash. And here we have the double curse setup with Scorching Ray and Cast while channeling. This is just going to shit out your curses when you're channeling Scorching Ray. And Scorching Ray also really helps us out for when we roll reduced curse effect on our map. You can see if we have 60% on there, it gets amplified pretty much to 100% once you load in. If we take our curses off and put Scorching Ray to max stages, it gives us a nice chunk of DPS. So this is very useful for T17 bosses that do have curse immunity. And then we have Malevolence and Eternal Blessing. And that's it for the skills. And I'll quickly go over the gear. Again, I'll be crafting all this bullshit except for the uniques obviously and the Simplex. I just bought that myself. So we have Dune. This is giving us 1% increased damage per 6 strength. This is normally 8 strength, but I have the 25% reduced damage modifiers on it, so it's making it 6. We have the AoE Mace here, giving us 3% increased AoE per 50 strength. I went Behemoth Mace to have the attack speed implicit for my Leap Slam. The Giga Divine Crown, I showed this earlier. We have Ivory Tower, giving us a shit ton of energy shield because of all of our reserved life. Righteous Fire does damage based off your ES and your life, and it does not matter if your life is reserved, it still does the same damage. So this is very nice survivability and damage. Shaper's Touch is basically doing the same thing for us, just a fuck ton of ES, 1% increased ES per 10 strength. You want to get an increased max life corruption on these, you could go for a +1 socket of gems or +2 aura and then like put Malevolence, Eternal Blessing in there. It'll give you about 140k DPS. But I went for the attack speed implicit just to have my leap slam feel smoother. We have Paladin Boots with strength, increased strength, ES, life, and chaos res. Simplex Amulet giving us a fuck ton of strength and increased damage. This goddamn demon that ate every bit of my money. And a heavy belt with a shitload of strength, some chaos res, and life. For the flasks, it's a coruscating elixir build, so this needs 100% uptime. We are going Pathfinder, so our flask get charges every couple seconds. And then we are rolling reused at the end of flask effect and reduced charges per use on each flask. And then we have Riot's End, that's giving us explode and some extra res. If you want to do bossing, you would replace this with an overflowing chalice, and then you would have to tattoo one strength node for 6% fire res. And then for Pantheons, we're running Lunaris and Tukohama. Alright, let's showcase a map. This looks fine. It's pretty rippy, but it's fine. This is my Atlas. Boom boom. It's for Scarab farming. It's gonna be 2 adversaries, 2 nemesis, and a wisp. Sometimes shit is pretty tanky with this Scarab setup, so Headhunter for this strat is very good. Since the rares have a lot of mods on them from the Nemesis Scarabs, they're going to be pretty tanky, but they're also going to give us a lot of heady buffs fast. A lot of the times I'm ripping through maps with like 60k ES, and I'm dot capped without having to curse anything. Ideally though, you just want to get your damage as high as possible without having curses out and not using a Headhunter, because sometimes you'll get too many Headhunter buffs and you'll be over dot capped, which makes you do literally 0 damage. If this ever happens to you, just unequip your Headhunter and put it back on. I am just going to use the heavy belt for the showcase, but because the damage isn't super min-maxed on the build yet, a heady definitely would feel better just for map blasting. I am still missing a lot of damage with this build too, so there's probably going to be a couple mobs like this guy that I have to take a second or two to kill, unless I curse them. That's why it's just nice to have a heady as well, because you don't have to worry about channeling Scorching Ray for like half a second to curse them. You'll just be blasting the shit pretty close to dot cap, but there's still a lot of damage to get with this build too. Some upgrades I could do is upgrade my clusters, get a better adorned, get a 3-node lethal pride instead of the 2-node. And there's some other stuff I could do, but I just can't really think about it right now. Oh yeah, the other thing would be getting a Bound by Destiny into the build. I talked about that at the start. But that's probably something I'm going to do next league if I make the build again. So this boss kill should be pretty fast. Yeah, he's gonna die pretty quick. There's not a lot of bad mods on this map. It only has a little bit of life on it, I believe. Yeah. But if you have double life mods, like life and then life as ES, or some Ellie res or some shit, your boss kill might take a little bit longer. We'll do one of these too, I guess, and then we'll get into crafting.
But later never came. Patience is a mercy. Negligence.
Surely I can tank this, right? Yeah, we're fine. Alright, let's craft. For the helmet, you're going to buy a bunch of item level 82 plus Elder Divine Crowns and make sure that they're magic. Then you're going to alt spam them with the regex I have in the description for T1 strength and T1 burn damage. And then we're going to recom the both of them until we get 2 stats on the same helmet. You can see the dust cost here is absolutely insane. That's because of the physical damage dispels mod we have on the other helmet. If you craft a shitter prefix on these, it will make the dust cost go down significantly. But this is still super expensive, right? So what we're going to do, since this mod is making it so expensive, we're going to annul it. So now we're going to craft a shitty prefix on this one. And now look at the dust cost difference, right? It's night and day. So just keep this in mind when you're recomming. So we're going to slam these together until we get a helmet that has both stats. If you fail, just keep alt spamming and recomming until you get a helmet like this. We'll call this helmet 1. Now we need helmet 2, and helmet 2 also needs to have 2 suffixes. One of them is going to be an essence mod, and one of them will be a duplicate of helmet 1, either strength or burn damage. For the essence mod, you're going to use hysteria essences, and then you're just going to click the helmet once and annul it down for the only suffix. The prefixes don't matter, but you ideally only want to have one, so the dust cost is cheaper. Now you're going to take this helmet and recom it with a strength or a burn damage helmet that you alt spammed before. And once you have 2 suffixes on there, this will be helmet 2. All of these recoms we're doing are roughly a 30% chance to hit, so you might have to do it a couple times. Alright, we have helmet 2. It took us about 4 attempts. Now you're just going to slam helmet 1 and helmet 2 together, and you're going to pray that you get helmet 3, which will have 3 suffixes. And we failed. So now we need to make a new helmet 2, which will have the essence mod and 1 duplicate of one of these suffixes. It's probably going to take you like 3 or 5 attempts, but eventually after slamming them together, you will get your triple suffixes. Okay, so now we need to add an influenced prefix so we can elevate the burn damage. So go to the menagerie and put on a wild bristle matron. Now you're going to stick it in your crafting bench and reforge caster to get a guaranteed influenced prefix. Then you grab an orb of dominance, click the button and pray. If you fail, you have to go back to recomming. I think I failed this 4 times before I got it elevated. Now for the prefixes. You're going to craft mana and exalt in hopes of hitting conk effect or less duration. If you miss, you're going to remove crafted mods, go to the menagerie, and put on a wild bristle matron. And then you're going to scour it. Now you're going to craft mana and double exalt again. Keep repeating this until one of your exalts hit conk effect or less duration. If you do end up hitting less duration on the first exalt, I would highly recommend going for a fullborn. I would not go for the fullborn, even if you exalted 20 conk effect on the first one, because conk effect is a lot more common than less duration. If your second exalt is a brick, then remove crafted mods and go back to the menagerie to put on another wild bristle matron. Since we have one of our mods, instead of scouring, we're going to annul in hopes of removing the other bad prefix. A lot of the time you're going to end up annulling the suffixes can't be changed, so if that happens, just add a new wild bristle matron and go again. If you get rid of the bad mod, you're exalting in hopes of hitting your second prefix. After just under, I want to say, like 100 wild bristle matrons, this is what I got. Craft life, and done. For the AoE mace, you're going to buy a bunch of item level 82 plus elder maces, or if you want quality, you just buy the base and then make them elder yourself. The type of mace doesn't matter. I went behemoth mace, so we have the 6% attack speed implicit, so our leap slam feels a bit smoother. And we're recomming this the same way as we did the helmet, but this time we are alt spamming for 3 stats instead of 2, and it's going to be strength, DoT multi, and increased AoE per 50 strength. You're going to make 2 different maces with 2 suffixes on each, so you will have 1 duplicate mod. And now this will be roughly a 30% chance on hitting your 3 suffixes, so you just send them and pray. Just go back to recomming if it fails. When you get your suffixes, you're going to go to the menagerie and put on a wild bristle matron and veiled chaos it. Then you're going to go to your hideout, stick it in your crafting bench, block increased fizz damage, and pray that you unveil fire damage, chance to ignite. If you do not hit it, just click a random veiled mod, and then go back to the menagerie, put on another wild bristle, and veil orb again. And you're just crafting damage over time, and the mace is done. Okay, so for boots, we need hunter boots. They were kind of expensive to buy, so I was just throwing shaper exalts at them and then reforging influence and harvest. We are recomming these the same as the other items, and the stats we're looking for are strength, increased strength, and chaos res. If you want an abyssal socket, you would do it the same way as we did the helmet. You would just click the fossil once and then try to annul it down for the only suffix. If you don't care too much about having chaos res or an abyssal socket as your third suffix, you could just craft these by spamming rage essences and then just annul exalt for your third suffix. Probably the way you would have to do it if you wanted to do the Bound by Destiny version, because you would need these to also be elder. But because we want chaos res or an abyssal socket, it's definitely better to recom them. And that's because if you try to reforge chaos on hunter boots, there are 4 other chaos mods that you can hit. So it's very AIDS to try to get chaos res on them this way. Once you recom your suffixes, you're going to remove crafted mods and then go to the menagerie and put on a wild bristle matron. Now we need to elevate the strength, so we're going to stick it in our crafting bench and reforge chaos for a guaranteed influenced prefix. And you grab an orb of dominance and send it. If you fail, you're back to recomming. Once you have strength elevated, you're going to go back to the menagerie, put another wild bristle matron on it, and click it with a veiled chaos in order to get our movement speed. After you click the veiled chaos, you're going to throw it in your crafting bench and craft either life or mana, and this will give you a higher chance at unveiling one of the movement speeds. We currently have no way of getting onslaught, so onslaught is our best in slot here. From here you're exalting in hopes of hitting a high tier of life or armor and ES. You can fullborn if you want to. If they're super expensive I probably wouldn't. And if you don't hit what you want, you can always just go back to the menagerie, put on another wild bristle, and veiled chaos it again. If you're lucky, you'll just hit one of your stats when you veiled chaos. Then hope to unveil what you want, craft on life, and the boots are done. For the belt, buy a bunch of item level 85 plus elder bases and alt spam for strength, increased attributes, and chaos res. Recom the same way as you did the other items to get your suffixes. Then you're going to remove crafted mods, go to the menagerie, and put on a wild bristle matron. Stick it in your crafting bench and reforge life in hopes of hitting T1 life. Or a combo of flat life and increased max life. If you hit both of these, you're pretty happy. You can settle on a lower tier of flat life if you do hit both of them. And if you're not satisfied on your reforge, go back to the menagerie, put a wild bristle matron on again, and send it again. Keep in mind, it's about a 1 in 12 chance for the prefixes to fill. If that happens, you just have to YOLO and annul, and if it hits a suffix, you're back to recomming. Once you have something you're satisfied with, craft on armor and ES, or increase damage if you already have some kind of ES on it. And do not forget to attribute catalyst it. For the helical, because of the fact you can 5-to-1 the failed mists and fractures, and because of how expensive delirium essences were when I was crafting this, I thought the best way to do it was to go for a fracture. Then you either rage essence until T1 attributes, annul the other suffix if there is one, and craft aspect, or you rage essence until 58 strength, annul it down to only 2 suffixes, craft attributes, and then add aspect. You also want a prefix that won't affect you if it goes negative on the mist. Once you have it crafted, don't forget to put attribute catalysts on it and then send a mist. I'm going to put a compilation of most of my failed mists and fractures just so you can get an idea of how painful this was. That thing cost me like a fucking 1,000 divines or some shit. I don't even know. For magic jewels, you're gonna buy jewels with the 4 to 5 strength synthesis implicit, and then use a gilded fossil on them. Don't forget to bless orbit for the max roll on the implicit. Then you're gonna alt spam for max life and either fire dot multi or any max res. Use augments and annuls when you hit one of your stats. We need 3 jewels with 2% max fire res, and the rest of them are gonna be fire dot multi. Anytime you roll a jewel with cold or lightning max res, or just 1% fire max res, you can throw it in your harvest bench and swap between resistances, and this will also divine the stat for you. Now you're gonna bring it to the menagerie and apply a lock to it, and then you're going to check your vaal orb and see if it bricks or not. If it does brick, you're just going to use a blessed orb to get rid of the lock, and then use another one to get the strength back to 5. And you're just going to keep on doing this until eventually your vaal orb gives you something good, or you just end up settling on a corrupted jewel with no changes. Keep in mind, when you're vaaling these, the vaal implicit can also roll over the strength instead of the sells more to vendors. I also want to go over some implicits that look like they may be good, but they're not. Damage penetrates Res is trash. Righteous Fire does not pen because it does not hit, so the pen implicits are not good. Increase effect of non-damaging ailments. We're using skitterbots, so we're shocking, but this does not increase the effect of the skitterbot's shock, and we are not igniting, so this is useless. Increased reservation efficiency of skills. You can get one of these, but if you do have one, you need to drop your Enlighten to level 3. The goal is to have as much of your life reserved as possible. Corrupted Blood is not needed at all. I got to level 100 without having this, and I didn't even come close to dying when Corrupting Blood was on me because of this node right here. I'm pretty sure this just makes you immune to Corrupted Blood, but you can run it if you get it. For the clusters, you're going to either want to have increased effect, all attributes, or strength fractured. And then you're just reforging life and harvest, and you're going to use exalts and annuls whenever you have 2 stats. Or you make them by alt spamming, and you're hoping to regal into your second stat and exalt into your third. If your exalt hits a shitty stat, you just annul it and try to go again. If your annul hits a good stat, don't try to annul again and then double exalt, just immediately scour and go back to alt spamming. T1 life here is your best in slot, but they're pretty painful to craft, so just be aware. Fuck it. Oh my god, please. No way, are you fucking kidding me, man? Oh, that hurts the soul, dude. Come on, man. Are you fucking serious, dude? Oh, come on. No. Oh. No. Oh. Fuck it, I'm full burning it. Please, God. No. If this gives me a fucking tier 2 now after the full burn, I'm pissed. I'm going to bed.